Welcome to Trump Wire, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. In August 2025, the Trump administration stunned the world by slapping a sweeping 50% tariff on nearly all Indian imports, doubling existing duties overnight. The announcement sent shockwaves through global markets, catching both American and Indian businesses off guard. For years, the US and India had built a complex web of trade ties, but this sudden escalation marked a dramatic turning point. This was more than a policy tweak. It was economic warfare, targeting India's continued purchase of Russian oil with an extra 25% duty. The move was designed to send a message not just to India, but to any nation considering alternatives to American energy and influence. The message from Washington was clear. India's strategic autonomy had limits, and its economic choices now carried a heavy price. Behind closed doors, diplomats scrambled to contain the fallout, but tensions only grew as both sides dug in. President Trump's blunt rhetoric on Truth Social, calling the US-India trade relationship a totally one-sided disaster, poured fuel on the fire. His posts went viral, sparking fierce debate in both countries and drawing sharp criticism from Indian officials and American business leaders alike. He accused India of flooding US markets while protecting its own, framing the move as a defense of American interests. Across the US, manufacturers and farmers worried about retaliation, while in India, protests erupted outside government buildings, demanding a strong response. Trump's comments about India buying oil and weapons from Russia underscored his transactional approach. Loyalty meant buying American. The administration made it clear, economic partnership would now be measured by political alignment. The stage was set for a high-stakes confrontation with global consequences. As markets reeled and world leaders watched anxiously, the world braced for the next chapter in a rapidly escalating trade war. This trade war didn't come out of nowhere. For years, the US and India built a partnership to counter China, but economic tensions simmered beneath the surface. In 2024, US-India trade hit $129 billion, but a $45.8 billion deficit in India's favor became a political flashpoint for Trump. The president's focus on trade imbalances ignored the complexities of global supply chains, instead fueling a narrative of American victimhood. Tariffs were a constant sticking point. India's average tariff on US goods was 6.2% higher than America's 2.4% on Indian goods, but not the fortress Trump claimed. Failed negotiations over agriculture, medical devices, and digital services left both sides frustrated. What was once managed quietly now exploded into public confrontation, eroding trust. The foundation of the partnership began to crack under pressure. The White House justified the 50% tariff as a way to force India to open its markets, claiming it was a necessary step to level the playing field for American businesses and address the trade deficit, which had been a long-standing issue in the bilateral trade relationship. But the extra 25% duty on Indian goods tied to Russian oil purchases revealed a deeper motive, using economic leverage to shape India's foreign policy. This move was seen as a strategic effort to pressure India into aligning more closely with Western geopolitical interests. Washington saw India's energy deals with Russia as undermining Western sanctions and propping up Moscow. The US administration believed that by targeting India's economic interests, they could dissuade India from continuing its energy transactions with Russia. Trump's public statements turned the dispute into a personal crusade, casting himself as the defender of American interests. He often framed the issue in stark nationalistic terms, appealing to his base by emphasizing the need to protect American jobs and industries. His rhetoric was simple and effective, resonating with voters who blamed foreign countries for economic woes. By portraying the tariffs as a fight for economic justice, Trump managed to galvanize support among those who felt left behind by globalization. Trump's claim that he rejected a last-minute Indian offer to slash tariffs to zero was political theater, painting India as desperate. This narrative served to bolster his image as a tough negotiator who wouldn't back down. This narrative weakened India's position, making it appear as though they were on the back foot in negotiations, and made the trade war as much about public perception as policy. The media played a significant role in shaping the narrative, with both sides using it to their advantage. The battle lines were drawn in both capitals and on social media, where the discourse was as heated as the negotiations themselves. India's response was swift and defiant. The Foreign Ministry condemned the tariffs as unfair and unreasonable, highlighting US and European trade with Russia to expose American hypocrisy. Finance Minister Sitharaman insisted India would keep buying Russian oil if it benefited the nation, citing economic survival. Commerce Minister Goyal declared India would never bow to international pressure, framing the dispute as a test of sovereignty. The government projected resilience, but also acknowledged the economic risks. Chief Economic Advisor Nageswaran warned the tariffs could shave up to 0.6% off India's GDP, but stressed the economy's strong fundamentals. Growth forecasts remained optimistic, signaling confidence in India's ability to weather the storm. The message: India would not be bullied, and its economic autonomy was non-negotiable. The standoff had become a matter of national pride. The $87 billion trade war headline is no exaggeration. Over half of India's exports to the US are at risk. Labor-intensive sectors like textiles, apparel, and jewelry, employing millions, face devastating losses as orders dry up and factories shutter. The pharmaceutical industry, a lifeline for both countries, is also caught in the crossfire, threatening affordable medicine supplies. This isn't just about numbers, it's about livelihoods and the future of India's export-driven growth model. The US has been India's top export market for decades. Now, that relationship is in jeopardy. India must urgently seek new markets and rethink its economic strategy. The stakes are enormous for both economies. Trump's tariff escalation came just after Modi's high-profile visit to China for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Modi and Xi publicly called for partnership, unsettling Washington, which saw India as a bulwark against China. US officials feared that punishing India could push it closer to Beijing, undermining American strategy in Asia. Trump's furious social media response was an attempt to reassert US primacy and punish India for its diplomatic maneuvering. Some in Washington downplayed the Modi-Xi meeting, calling it tactical, not a true alliance. But even tactical shifts matter. India is pursuing a multi-aligned foreign policy, refusing to be confined to one camp. American pressure may backfire, accelerating India's engagement with non-Western blocs like SCO and BRICS. The world is moving toward multipolarity, and the US can no longer dictate terms. The human cost of this trade war is real and immediate. In India, millions of workers in textiles, leather, and handicrafts face job losses as US orders vanish. Small businesses and local economies will feel the ripple effects, threatening years of poverty reduction. In the US, consumers will see higher prices on everything from clothing to generic medicines, straining household budgets. American businesses relying on Indian goods will face higher costs or disrupted supply chains. Some may try to find new suppliers, but shifting supply chains is costly and slow. The tariffs, meant to protect American jobs, will instead raise costs for families and businesses. Both countries' economies and their people will pay the price. The promise of global trade is at risk. The US-India relationship stands at a crossroads, shaped by decades of cooperation, competition, and shifting global priorities. Both nations have benefited from their partnership, but now face a critical test that could define their future for years to come. The US sees tariffs as a tool to force fairer trade and align India's foreign policy with American interests. For Washington, these measures are not just about economics, but about maintaining influence in a rapidly changing world. India, on the other hand, views the tariffs as protectionist bullying, a threat to its sovereignty, and a challenge to its independent foreign policy. Many in India see these moves as an attempt to undermine their nation's rise on the world stage. Both sides have valid grievances, and the issues at stake are complex, involving not just trade but technology, security, and global influence. Yet the risk of lasting damage to the relationship is very real. A prolonged trade war could disrupt vital supply chains, cost millions of jobs, and push India closer to China and Russia, nations eager to expand their own influence in the region. The ripple effects would be felt far beyond just these two countries. The strategic partnership, painstakingly built over decades through trust and shared values, is now at risk of unraveling. Years of progress could be undone in a matter of months. The only way forward is renewed diplomacy and compromise, with both sides willing to listen and adapt. The US must recognize India as a major independent power, one whose choices will shape the future of Asia and the world. India, in turn, must address some US concerns on market access and intellectual property, showing it is ready to be a responsible global player. The future depends on whether both leaders can look beyond short-term politics to their shared interests: security, prosperity, and stability in a turbulent world. If they fail, this trade war may mark the moment a promising partnership lost its way, with consequences that could echo for generations.